All right, well, on this episode, I'm really excited to have Jay Byers with us because Jay, when I was exploring on LinkedIn, I wanted some leaders in Iowa, and I came across your profile, and it was like, wow, if anybody in Iowa has been exposed to or has been around or is experienced leadership, like holy cow, that's you. I'll let you get into your background here a little bit, but just the very first line in your LinkedIn profile is CEO of Greater Des Moines Partnership, which serves over 6,100 businesses and 23 chambers of commerce. So, wow, I'm really looking forward to picking your brain here. So, Jay, tell us a little bit more about your background and career history.
Sure. Well, I am a small town Iowa kid. I grew up in Northwest Iowa in a little town called Meriden, which is in Cherokee County, less than 200 people. Town that didn't even have a chamber of commerce or a stoplight. And my grandparents on both sides were farmers. Parents were educators, and so that has a lot to do with sort of who I still am today. Actually moved in high school to another small town in Northwest Iowa called Manson. My dad changed jobs. He was a high school administrator, and the previous school was going through a consolidation. So graduated from Manson, moved from a town that had one stop sign to one stoplight. I like to say I'm proud that I graduated fourth in my class, but still wasn't smart enough to be top 10% because there's only 39 in my class. But anyway, two really great towns, had really great experience growing up in Northwest Iowa. Then I went to Simpson College for undergrad, studied political science, criminal justice, then went from there to the University of Iowa College of Law, got my law degree. Then I left the state. I went to work for a large law firm called Ice Miller in Indianapolis, Indiana. There were more than 200 attorneys. There were actually more attorneys in that law firm than there were people in my original hometown, which is pretty interesting. But true. And I worked as a labor and employment attorney, primarily on representing company side, and did that for just a fairly short time, just shy of a couple of years, and then had the opportunity to boomerang back to Iowa. And at that point, had a really unique opportunity to go work for a gentleman by the name of Congressman Leonard Boswell, and sort of dip my toe into public policy and politics for 7 years. And I was his state director and worked for Congressman Boswell for 7 years. And so that's how I got back to the state. My wife and I then lived in the Indianola, in the Indianola area for a number of years. And after working for Congressman Boswell, we went through a redistricting process, and basically his district changed, and we opened an office in Des Moines, and I was in charge of opening that office. And as a result, just working with Congressman Boswell, I got to know lots of business leaders and community leaders, and worked on transportation projects and economic development projects. And I was really just sort of drawn to that work in community development. And as a result, got to know a lot of the leaders here at the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and work closely with them on lobbying on federal issues, and working on a lot of projects here. And I got recruited to, in 2005, got recruited to be the partnership's Senior Vice President of Government Affairs and Public Policy. So in charge of state lobbying, federal lobbying, working with advocacy at the city, county, regional level, all of our public policy development, writing all those policies and implementing those, and did that for 7 years. Really enjoyed that as well too, and then got promoted to CEO in 2012, and I've been in this position ever since.
Now that you're with the Greater Des Moines Partnership, can you share with us a little bit more about what the Greater Des Moines Partnership is and what they do?
Sure, absolutely. So again, as I mentioned before, I grew up in a town that didn't even have a chamber of commerce, and now I have the unique privilege, which I cherish every day, to work for the largest chamber and economic development organization in the state. And we currently now have 24 affiliate chambers of commerce. We have more than 6,600 members. We're helping lead economic development in 10 different counties. And so we do a lot of different things. So on the economic development front, we help recruit companies to move here. We help existing companies expand, and we help build out the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We also are heavily engaged in talent, so recruiting talent to move here, retaining talent that lives here, and skilling up existing talent. So working with education community, the workforce development community, our existing businesses to again skill up our talent and to help our talent be prepared for the careers of the future. We also are heavily engaged in assisting small businesses. So we call that business resources and community development. So that'd be more of the traditional Chamber of Commerce work. And so again, we work with our 6,600 members across the region, public, private, nonprofit, help them to be successful, providing lots of programming for them, technical assistance for individual businesses and for communities as well. And then we also, since we are a combined regional economic development organization, regional Chamber of Commerce and downtown group, we also have a focus on downtown Des Moines as well, with a merger of multiple organizations. So we work on a lot of specific downtown Des Moines things. So things such as Des Moines Arts Festival, the Downtown Farmers Market, World Food and Music Festival, the DSM Book Festival, which is actually going on today. So lots of events. We also do a lot with Operation Downtown, Clean, Safe, and Beautiful. So extra security downtown, making sure downtown is clean, providing additional assistance downtown. So if you see folks walking around downtown in the green coats, that's part of us as well. But we do other things such as downtown flowers, downtown banners, downtown economic development. And then across all those platforms, we're heavily engaged with public policy and lobbying. And that's, again, what I used to do. But again, that's with all of our platforms, and then also communications and marketing, and how do we really position the DSM USA region, nationally and internationally, and really put us on the map. So helping drive those PR stories, national stories. So that really helps with our ability to recruit and retain both companies and talent. So there's a lot of things that are combined with that, but I guess we say we are the regional economic and community development organization serving Central Iowa.
What would you say, this is probably difficult to think through, all of your career moves and just all that you do in your current role, but what would you say is the most significant moment of your career?
Well, I think in many ways, and this, when I look back, and I was, I guess, 27 years old when I did this, but I mentioned, I went to law school. I didn't grow up having this burning desire to be, Perry Mason or, corporate lawyer. I was always really drawn, when I was in high school, I kind of decided, probably my senior year, that I kind of wanted to go to law school, but really didn't know why, other than I really always enjoyed, sort of social studies and history and geography, government. And I was always very interested in that. And, so studying political science, I guess, early on, I didn't even know you could study political science, when I was a kid. And, but it was, but I really enjoyed that. And, really sort of geared my curriculum to go to law school. Was lucky enough to get into the University of Iowa Law School, College of Law, which was just a tremendous experience as well too. Learned a lot and did fairly well, well enough to get, corporate attorney job. But it wasn't really that I never really felt that, this is what I was sort of born to do, or that I had this, mega passion for being an attorney. And, I thought Indianapolis was a great city. It was still a great city. It's a great city. When I lived there, I worked with some really smart people. It was a tremendous law firm, but I never really felt I was built to do that work, right? I think I was an okay lawyer, but I really didn't have the passion, right, to say, gosh, I want to do this for my whole career. So I really got a lucky break in that, one of my very best friends from law school was a gentleman by the name of John Norris. And John was, quite a bit older than I was. He'd done a lot of really interesting work before going to law school, but we became fast and furious friends. And after law school, he went back and did more political things and was hired by Congressman Boswell to be his campaign manager. And then they won that first race in 1996, and Congressman Boswell made John his chief of staff. And so, ironically, when I was living in Indianapolis, John would stay with me on his way back and forth between DC, and I'd sort of plant some seeds with him saying, hey, if there's ever anything back in Iowa that you think I'd be good at, let me know. I'd be interested at some point maybe in moving back. Don't really know for sure what I want to do, but have a passion for government, those sort of things. And well, as it turned out, the Congressman's first state director. After 6 months or so, had to move on because her husband had got a different job. And so, John called me and said, "Hey, is this something you might be interested in?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if I've got the right background, and I've never met the congressman before." He goes, "I'll just have him call you." And so I was sitting at my desk on the 31st floor of my office building in downtown Indianapolis. By the way, I just gotten engaged like a week before. My fiance, now wife, was living in the Quad Cities, so she was expecting to move to Indianapolis. She's also a lawyer, by the way. We met in law school. And so Congressman Boswell calls me, and I can't remember if I even provided a resume. I might have, but I can't remember if I did or not. And basically called me, and again, I'd never talked to him before, and said, "Hey, this is Congressman Boswell, and your friend John says a lot. He thinks you're very talented, thinks you'd be a great member of our team, and that you'd be interested in coming to work for us." And I said, "Yeah, it sounds like a really great opportunity." He offered me the job on the spot. I'd never met him.
Wow.
And offered me a salary that was exactly 50% of what I was making at the time, to the penny, 50%. And then he said, "By the way, I'd kind of like to know right now if you would accept." And so I tried to negotiate a little bit, didn't work. And he said, and so I said, "I'll take it," and hung up the phone and said, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do?" So I think my parents at the time, my dad thought I was probably scratched his head a little bit. You spend all this time going to law school and getting this really great job, and now you take this big pay cut and you're going to work for a congressman who may not even have a job in a year and a half. And by the way, he was a top 3 target that year in 1998 for that reelection. So I could have very well been unemployed in a very short amount of time. And I think my fiance wife now was probably a little bit like, maybe you could have consulted with me first, but it was just one of these. For me, it was a gut check moment. And it was actually a very easy decision. And so that I think was a total defining moment for me. Moved back, we moved to Indianola, as I mentioned before, because Des Moines wasn't in the district at the time. And I'd gone to Simpson, and I knew a lot of people there. So again, I loved that job and learned a ton. And I sort of made that determination. I said, well, if I move back, I'm going to meet a ton of people. I'm going to learn a lot. And I think things will take care of themselves. And that's exactly what happened.
That's such a great story that you shared. And I think about 2 things when you tell that story. Was one, initially, you had the courage to recognize that maybe something wasn't a fit for you. I think sometimes some people just continue to push forward on that, so that courage to recognize that. And then the other thing too is that ability to take a risk. And so, sometimes I see that as a theme in people who are leaders. The other thing I recognize too in a lot of people who are leaders is that they're always striving to get better. What are some of the things that you do to get better?
It's a great question, and I am a huge proponent of lifelong learning, right? I think some people think, gosh, I graduated from college and now I'm set, or I graduated from law school, now I'm set. But now, right, it's something like people are averaging 7 careers, right? Or 7 different, major different types of jobs in their lifetime, right? And things are changing so fast, technology, and just the world is changing so fast. You've constantly got to be sharpening your saw, right? So I'm a huge proponent of lifelong learning. I'm a huge reader. I read multiple newspapers every day. I read multiple trade publications. I try to read at least 2 books every month that are sort of outside my comfort zone, just to really expand my knowledge base. I'm also heavily engaged with statewide and national organizations, to really have that sort of strong connectivity with my peers and to learn from them. I think one of the things that Partnership really prides ourselves on is sort of is looking at best practices as we try to be best in class. And there's different organizations like ours across the country, and quite frankly across the world, that are doing things, and we're learning from them constantly and sharing our best practices with them. So I very much encourage our team to do the same. I'm very supportive of our team, getting certifications and going to conferences and those sort of things. I've also both of the certifications within the Chamber of Commerce industry. I've achieved both of those, and also done significant training on just economic development as well too. So constantly doing that, and again, I think not only have I done that myself, but encourage my team to do that as well too, because again, I think things are changing so rapidly, and you've got to be on top of the current trends, and you always constantly have to be sharpening your skill sets, and both in terms of technology, in terms of technology, and but also content, and again, I can't stress enough the importance of lifelong learning.
You talked a lot about the importance of staying relevant and staying on top of things and how things have transitioned and how things have changed. And so, you've been in the leadership business for a while. You've been around lots of different leaders. How has leadership changed over that whole trajectory of your career?
I don't know how much leadership itself has changed. I think leaders change, right? I think I'm a lot better leader today than I was when I first became CEO. And a lot of that is just because, again, that lifelong learning, right? And you gain wisdom through experiences and learning from, the different chairs that have, chaired the Greater Des Moines Partnership, and the other senior team that work with me, and being around other leaders, right? You gain that wisdom and that experience. So I think leaders continue to evolve and get better as they face, new experiences. And again, I think even, I think I'm a lot better leader today than I was a year ago, simply because of COVID-19 and all the things that we went through as a community. Because in so many ways, it's, I'm not saying it's easy to be a leader, but when things are going well and you're part of a high functioning organization and you've got a strong team, that's one thing. It's another thing when, the economy is literally shutting down and nobody knows what the future is, and the entire community is looking for people to step up to be leaders in your organizations, and they're relying on people to do that, right? You really show what you're made of, right? So again, I think that so many leaders across this country, and whether it's private sector, public sector, or nonprofit sector, really stepped up this last year and showed what they're made of, and some didn't, right? And again, I think that's really important, right? Because I'm not sure just the core functions of leadership have changed, and I think as not only COVID-19, but with the tragic killing of George Floyd, and so many other things, right? That have the challenges that are out there. Again, I don't think leadership has changed, but I think that leaders change, and I think that just the overall situation that we're in as a country and world have changed.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit here in the last question, but it's 2021. It's a little bit of a different world sometimes than some of the past years or decades. But what do you see as some of the greatest challenges facing leaders today?
Well, I think, kind of even just right now, it's sort of, what does people talk about the next normal or the new normal? What's that sort of look like? Because I don't think anyone really knows yet, right? And I think whether you're in, a position like mine with the Greater Des Moines Partnership, or whether you're in a private sector CEO, and definitely as an elected leader, it's sort of, what does that look like, right? And one of my favorite quotes is by Peter Drucker, and says the best way when he said the best way to predict the future is to create it, right? Mm. And so we talk about a lot about not the next normal or the new normal, but how do we help create a better normal, right? And how do you sort of set that tone as an organization and as a region? And so, how do we make it a more inclusive normal, a more sustainable normal, more innovative normal, a more civil normal, a more resilient normal, right? All these sort of, right? And so, it was in so many ways, 2020 and even now is sort of this, kind of this great reset, right? I think everybody is sort of really looking at themselves and their families and their careers and saying, hey, this is sort of a gut check moment, right? And there's been a lot of people who've either retired or changed careers or looking to this is the time to really do those things we always wanted to do, right? And so it's a chance to really, I think, make improvements for our organizations and our communities and our state, our country, our world. And so I think it's really important that we don't miss that moment. And in terms of, some of the biggest challenges right now, is what just sort of all the division in our society right now. It's sort of, you're with me or you're against me. You're blue or you're red. You're Democrat, you're Republican. You're rural, you're urban, right? I mean, it's sort of this, the ongoing big sort, which was a book that was written by Bill Bishop a number of years ago, and people look at social media that they agree with. They read the news that they agree with, and in so many ways, where it should be, where we now have more access to information than we've ever had before, and the ability to have critical thinking and to have independent thinking on best ideas and coming together and finding common ground. It's almost, in so many ways, that polarization where it's almost again, us versus them, blue versus red, Democrat versus Republican, urban versus rural, on and on and on. And I think as a society, we need to find out how to work better together, and we need to come together and find a lot more common ground, because it seems it's hard. It's harder today than it's ever been. And again, it motivates me. It motivates our team in terms of what we can do to play that role in our community. And I think more and more leaders need to step up to do that, because that has definitely changed a lot since I've been doing this work.
So last one, Jay, I always end with this. I love to hear how people respond to this question. What do you know for sure about leadership?
I'm not sure if I know for sure about anything, but what I know for sure about leadership is that you don't have to have a specific background, a specific, set of traits as leadership traits. I think you can be a wide range of different types of people and be very successful. I think what I know about effective leaders is you need to be authentic. You can't be something you're not. The different leaders all have different strengths, and you got to play to your strengths. And you also got to know what your limitations are and where you need help and what your weaknesses are, right? I think that's, to me, has been the most important part of success as a leader. As Jim Collins said, get the right people on the bus, right? And get people in the right seats. That is the absolute most important thing, right? You've got to be able to go and recruit, retain those folks that can build out your team, that are really good at things you're not good at. And you got to rely on them, right? And you can't be afraid to have people on your team who are smarter than you. And I think that's the key to successful organizations and leadership. And you got to check your ego at the door. And just in terms of, for me, when I'm looking for top talent, I'm looking for, not only folks who are highly skilled and talented, but they also have the hunger for success and humility. I think those make excellent teammates and strong leaders in and of themselves. And so again, I guess that's what I know, that there is no one great definition of leadership. There's no one great definition of leader, but everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses, and you got to know what yours are and surround yourself with people who make you better.
Jay, I really appreciate you being on the show. I know that you probably have 1,000 things to do today, but I appreciate us, digging in and picking your brain a little bit more about leadership. And it was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Lisa. I appreciate what you're doing in your day job as well, too. And again, the world needs leaders to step up right now, right? So keep inspiring people to do good things, and that's really the key to our future. As a region, as a state, and as a country, as we need to continue to develop and empower proactive, positive leaders. I still believe that the public, more than anything, a vast majority of the public is craving positive, proactive leadership, and they're craving that. So we need to empower our leaders to deliver on that and to be that. And the more we do that, the more successful we're all going to be.
Thanks for listening to the Supporting Leaders podcast. For more on supporting leaders, go to www.supportingleaders.org. Here you'll find links to the YouTube versions of our interviews and links to the podcast. You'll also find articles on leadership. To join in on the conversation, find the Supporting Leaders group on Facebook and find us on Instagram at Supporting Leaders.